dear young athlete, buy in for your teammates, because that's how you're going to get out what you want. Everything's bigger than you, and life's too short to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or 1.5 foot in and a half a foot out in anything we do.
What's up, people? Welcome to the Dear Young Athlete podcast, where we hear from coaches and athletes about their journeys and what advice they would give to a younger version of themselves. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson. You can call me JT. If you want to hear my story, it'll be in episode number 1. But enough about me, because today I'm joined by a very special guest. This man is a husband. He's a father. He's a former collegiate baseball player, conference champion, all conference. He's won some awards, which we'll get into later. He is a head coach of maybe the best baseball program in the state of Minnesota, and a multiple state champion coach. Above all that, he's a man of God. He's somebody that I've personally known and looked up to for around 15 years, and it's a great honor to speak with him here. So without further ado, Nik Anderson, what's up?
How's it going? Good to see you.
Yes. Well, let's jump into it. You've obviously had an awesome athletic career that's still going with coaching, but where did it all start for you? How'd you fall in love with sports?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'm one of 4 brothers, oldest sister, 4 boys. I'm the second to youngest, and sports has been something we've just always done. You know, I think back to growing up with my brothers, and they did it, so I did it. That's really where it began. So from as young as I can remember, playing sports was what we did. That's what we did for fun, when we weren't fighting or wrestling with each other, somehow getting in trouble. So I now have a little, let's see, I have a boy and a girl. Boy is 19 months old, and it's kind of funny just seeing where he gravitates to, which for him is, it was ball, which was not premeditated. It's just funny. I think kids start to go one direction or another, and I imagine that's how it happened for our older siblings, and all of a sudden, we're just following in their footsteps. So for as long as I can remember, sports has been what brings structure to my day, all the way through. So
yeah,
I'm adamant.
I remember being at your house growing up. Even you guys had like a little volleyball net in the back, and knee hockey in the basement.
Yep.
The weight room. We were constantly. That's what we all did for fun.
Yeah.
Great memories. So it became more serious for you at some point. Baseball, football, basketball, and take us through just what it was like. I mean, you were a football and a baseball captain in high school, and played on some really good teams. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Before I do, I'll just piggyback on your comments, because again, I all of a sudden start thinking through, being a little guy, and maybe before it got super serious or more serious or felt more serious, maybe. And like you said, if it was winter, you had snow football, you had the basement, you had the knee hockey. The minute it get nice out, like this time of year, we're pushing the snow off the basketball court. Hands are muddy, playing mini basketball. Our neighbors had a big open field with a tennis court behind it. So we'd set up tennis ball, baseball. And again, I think something that's fun for me as a younger brother was our house was sort of the commotion house where, yeah, and it always revolved around sports, which we'll get into. That's awesome. Also, the challenges that kind of poses around what sports then becomes, or could become. But yeah, for me, I think all of a sudden I took things real serious all the time. I had a problem. I'd say you ask my friends or my family, I had a problem. Competing was something that I loved, but there wasn't a ton of innocence to it. It was very, we're playing. Didn't matter if we're wearing jerseys or on a formalized team, which probably kind of modeled the way that things went for me. But a lot of the times I was the guy who was starting the fight. So maybe people started to get serious a little bit more in middle school and high school and, and beyond. For me, I think probably being a little brother that's just trying to keep up. It was always something that I, took pride in. It hurt when it didn't go well, and boy, did it feel good when it did. And I just, loved competing. So that being said, I certainly, when we got into high school, and especially older brothers start pumping iron, you start to focus a little bit more on mastering your craft. For me, I got to watch it get serious for them where, you're really competing at the highest level at the given time. And so, I think I had my eyes set on the prize. I was undersized, slow, a relatively unathletic athlete. I think I had a little bit more of the grinder mentality than maybe being as gifted as my other friends, partially just because I was a little guy. But I think modeled for me by other people was here's what it's going to take to be great. So coming into high school, I think I probably pride myself in working harder because that was just what I had to do to sort of keep up and hopefully chase the opportunity to play varsity or be a college athlete or go on and play for the Twins, which never happened.
So pausing there, I want to say something that sticks out about you to me because I know you personally. Yeah, you weren't the most quick, the most weight room strength. There were guys that we knew that walked in the weight room and they were freaks and they put up huge numbers. But the thing that I know about you is that you, like you mentioned, you work hard, you have consistent work ethic, and B, you've stuck with that. You developed a work ethic because that's what you needed. And now the funny thing is you probably could bench more than some of those guys in high school that were beasts just naturally. And I think that's so important because I've known and seen people that had so much natural talent. They never developed work ethic, coachability, weight room, consistency. And that stuff, we'll get into this more, but that carries with you in life beyond sports into everything you do. So you're in high school, captain, football, baseball, and you have success in both. What moved the needle for you more towards baseball?
Opportunity, probably for me. I'm a baseball coach. I hate to say it, but baseball is not my favorite sport. I tell my guys that I have no problem, saying that I love sports. It's not my favorite sport. Now, the things that the actual physical sport itself. Now, the things that come of it are what I love most about baseball, and we can get into that a little bit more. But I liked football more. I would say that was for me. You can will yourself. One, football has this. If you're not big and fast and strong, there's not a place for you necessarily. You got to get to a certain point, but from there, you can, because it's a physical game, and you can physically push yourself to a limit that a lot of people don't know how to tap into. That's what I loved about football, was there is this variable between someone and their ceiling. And if you knew how to close that out physically by pushing yourself, you could find a spot on a field as a guy who probably just doesn't have any business being there. In baseball, it's true as well. But it actually then takes more of a cerebral turn than the physical side of things. So all that to be said, I actually liked football more. Now, being a 5'9", on a good day quarterback that could throw the ball 25 yards, with getting all my weight into it, college was less likely an opportunity. And I think I continued to progress more on the baseball front, and probably the upside and opportunity was there. Now, that being said, I went to college. I wrestled with playing both. I actually had decided, you know what, I'm gonna play both. I'm gonna go to Bethel. I landed there not necessarily because of the sport that I was gonna play. I chose the institution first. This is where I wanted to land. Then the sport was complementary. I wasn't, that was just how things fell. I wasn't necessarily trying to push my limit to go to the best Division II or Division I. Granted, I couldn't have. Maybe it would have been different if I could have, but I didn't go on a big search party. I knew I wanted to go to Bethel, and I knew I wanted to play baseball and or football if I could. So I went in going, hey, I want to play both. That unfolded. Ultimately, I didn't get the opportunity to play football. Typically, you can if you'd like to. I didn't get that option. It was the cards were dealt to me a little bit like, hey, go play baseball. That's where you're needed most. You're going to be a high impact person over there. Football, we got a big class coming in, XYZ, go play baseball. So actually that decision was made for me, which was unique. It was something that I didn't land on, then God absolutely blessed it. But I wrestled all summer, and 2 weeks before football season, I thought I was going to go be a football and baseball player. So kind of interesting, because I never actually made that choice, which happens to athletes. Sometimes it just ends, not by your choice, or you don't make the team or whatever it is. And that was actually probably the first time in my life I was, I maybe didn't make the top team, or I didn't, granted, have I been the best player? No, but I somehow kind of landed making the teams I wanted to make most of my life. And this was the first time where I hit that roadblock where it was like, wait a second, I've typically been able to find a way. What do you mean I can't? So, that certainly was an interesting time. Now, 4 years later, wouldn't have done it any different. It played itself out perfectly. Again, I think God takes things and he's just working in them. But that doesn't always make sense on the front end. So I landed being told, hey, you're baseball, and that's what you're doing in college.
There's a couple of good points there. Sometimes things, they don't work out. They don't go as you planned. That's in sports. That's in life too. And when you're in the midst of it, it can be really hard. It can be really challenging. But when you persevere, you keep going. You didn't say, "Oh, I can't play football," and through a pity party, you made the most of what you could do, and now you look back and say, yes, that was the right thing that was happening. The other thing, in reality, you probably could have sought out some D2 baseball opportunities, maybe walked on at a smaller D1. Why Bethel?
Yeah, good question. I remember how I said I got 5 siblings, or there's 5 of us. 5 of 5 landed at Bethel, so I was the 4th. And we grew up a half a mile from Bethel. So, for anybody who's familiar, Mounds View High School, Mounds View District, Bethel is in the Mounds View District. So my college split the difference from my house to my high school. So, everybody gave me and some of my buddies a hard time, you included, for sticking around. Now, that being said, the reason I landed at Bethel is faith has been foundational to my family and the way I've been raised since day one. My faith, took a turn where I'd say all of a sudden it became my own later on, but that moral compass, that foundation was laid in me by people around me my whole life. So then fast forward, and I'm kind of getting to that point, like I said, end of middle school, starting high school, taking things a little bit more seriously, maybe. And what I got to see was my siblings at school at Bethel. Because they're close, I was able to see relationships, to know them, to know their friends, and continue to watch them do life. And maybe it's because it's your older sibling, or maybe it's because they had great relationships. They were great people, great role models that I landed going, I want to be like them. Whatever they have, I want that. So for me, I think I saw the fruits of going to a university, and it's not, there's no right or wrong, but for me, I saw what it yielded, and went, that looks good to me. I'm interested in that. And I didn't have anything I was running away from at home. Again, fortunately, I have a family that's tight, that's around the area, that a community that I loved in high school, a youth community that I loved being raised up by. So for me, I chose, actually being close to home was kind of a beneficial thing. And again, there's no right or wrong, but I went, hey, my faith is my foundation, though I had maybe not necessarily made it my own. But I knew in my head and in my heart that was what I wanted. So landing at a university where faith comes first, was something that I chose ahead of maybe pursuing a better baseball opportunity, or maybe an opportunity to grow more. Now, I probably also would have went to a school and been the last guy on the roster. I'm fortunate enough to go, hey, I went to Bethel and I actually got opportunities all 4 years to play, which again, I'd say that was more of a side note blessing than a thing I thought about on the front end. I had just decided I want to go to a Christian university. This one looks good. Let's do it. So I had started to fill out a few applications elsewhere, take a few phone calls from coaches, but then hang up and it's like, no, that's okay. I want to go to Bethel. So it was maybe premeditated. But again, I think it's a symptom of what I had seen come from people who had landed there.
Yeah, that's big too, because as an athlete, especially when you're really serious about it, it could seem like, you make every decision based upon your sport.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear you say, I mean, somebody put it to me once and said that when they were looking, a coach asked them, hey, if you got injured and
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't play anymore, where do you
Mm-hmm.
want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Having that realization that your sport most likely will come to an end,
Mm-hmm.
even if you play professionally. Eventually it ends, but your life still is going. So
Yep.
making decisions outside of just your sport, I think, is a big deal. It's important, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something hard to wrap your mind around when you're
Mm-hmm.
young.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool to hear, um, what you saw, your family, your
Mm-hmm.
community, allowed you to make that decision. And funny story, I was on the fence with Bethel. I did
Mm-hmm.
it overnight and I stayed with you.
Mm-hmm.
We played racquetball, drank smoothies, just had
Mm-hmm.
a good time. And that, I think, was what got me over the hump to land at Bethel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's good. I
go
got
ahead.
one. I got one more thought, and again, I think it's important. I didn't my and I think I was fortunate enough to have people speaking into me to remind me of what you're talking about, that it's not, your sport isn't the end all be all. Now that's really hard to realize. And as a coach, it's one of the hardest things to instill in somebody. Not that you don't want to chase the dream. And that's my point is I had absolute aspirations. As I said, like I am as competitive as they come. Is a problem. But I had absolute aspirations to be the best that I possibly could, to be on the team that was the best in whatever division it was, or whatever conference, or whatever it was. So it's not that I didn't desire those things. I think, again, I had people reminding me of those items. And so for me, I can resonate with kind of the temptation to feel like my sport is the end all be all. It's all I did. Like that was, again, it built my schedule. School or family or this or that didn't. The non-negotiables was sports in my life, which again was cool in some ways and not cool in some ways. But yeah, I don't want anybody thinking, hey, I landed there just because it was like sports was secondary, because it certainly was not. And that's where I feel fortunate to have sort of made a decision where it seemed like sports was secondary to, because that's not how my life was, which was, again, I think God intervening and going, hey, people have been filling your head with the right things, even though you maybe don't know it. We're gonna have you make some decisions based on that, because that's why community matters, because it's more influential than we think.
So you get into college, you land at Bethel, you're playing baseball. Turns out you guys win a conference championship. You're a 2-year captain.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick won't say this without me saying it. You won the MIAC 22 award, awarded to one male and one female in the whole conference. Each year, sort of the most outstanding student athlete. So, I mean, take us through, that journey. Is that the mountaintop of your athletic career, or what?
I would say yes. I think of my athletic career sort of, basketball was shorter. Football, high school football carried something special. And we had a very good team my senior year, and we made it to the state semifinals, furthest we'd have ever made. Really special team. And so that carries something in going, like it didn't get any better than that in high school football. There's just something about it. Now, from a baseball standpoint, absolutely. I think me as a player, I continued to progress, and I landed under some pretty amazing coaches that saw the right things in me, were able to pull them out and on some special teams where I think I was able to just thrive and progress and be a part of something bigger than myself. So we made it at Bethel. My first year, we made the playoffs for the first time in Bethel history. Second year, we won a playoff game for the first time in Bethel history. I think my junior year, we had made it to the conference championship for the first time. And then my senior year, we won the conference for the first time ever. So it was certainly it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, climb as far as what our team produced. So that was a really fun thing. I think, again, as an athlete, I continued to progress. And when I got to Bethel, as I reminded you before, I wasn't not the best. So my role, I made the Florida trip, the spring break trip. I was told, you're going to be the backup JV shortstop. That was my role, which great, not what I had wanted, but I'll take what I can get. We got 10 games down in Florida. Halfway through, guys start, baseball's a game of failure. Some guys start failing, and our coach was a guy who was very quick to go next man up. He's looking for the guy that can find a way. Actually, that was kind of our team motto. He doesn't care if you're biggest, fastest, strongest. He's looking for the guy that can get it done. So a guy fails, or a guy doesn't show up with the right attitude or whatever it is, he's calling on the next guy. So that starts happening in the middle of our trip, as we're winning some games, losing some games. I play in our first JV game, which you didn't play very many, and had a good game, make a diving catch, get a hit. Then all of a sudden, our ninth varsity game, second to last one, he gets really pissed off at one guy, puts in another guy. He comes in and does the exact same thing. And he's looking at the bench. He's like, Nick, go, you're in. So I go in. I can't even remember what the score of the game is. We're probably getting blown out. First at bat, boom, base hit. Maybe make a play in the field. Game ends. Great, good job. Go to sleep, wake up the next day, boom, you're in the lineup, starting varsity, my first opportunity. First at bat, get down a sacrifice bunt, make all my plays in the field. I don't even know. And then the rest was history. I started for 4 years and never came out. Now, I share that not because I was super good. You can go look at my stats. I wasn't that good. But for me, again, I got told this is my spot. Great, accept it, and then push forward. But that was really the story of my college career, which I think wasn't because I was the best. It's because I believed I could get it done. I believed in myself, and good things come of that, regardless of how big, fast, strong you are, right? So I really enjoyed my Bethel time. Much more than what me getting to play was the community of guys that I got to be on a team with. We were very good. Again, we were the best team in our conference, arguably by the end of the run, doing things that Bethel's never done. Were we the most talented team? No, we weren't. So that was what was special. That would be the story of my pinnacle sports career as a football player and as a baseball player was being a part of teams where on paper we weren't the best, but somehow you hated to play us. Long story short, certainly that Bethel ride was an enjoyable one. And about my junior year, my coach at Bethel had told me, hey, like when you're done, I want you to come back. You know, I want you to come coach. Because again, I think he saw something in me. He had seen that why I was able to maybe succeed beyond physically what I looked like I could do was because I was thinking like him. And in that moment and thinking forward, I would think back and go, I was sort of told by my coaches, you're going to be a coach someday since I was in third grade. And again, is probably where my best success came from was being able to understand what they were trying to get across and then sort of be the advocate within the players to get the guys to understand and again, buy into what we're doing, because that's just not always the case. So I think though maybe physically I didn't have the gifts, I had an understanding for what a coach is trying to do, a little bit more of the strategic side of things. And so from a young age, that's kind of told to you. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm playing all the way through. And I think I always knew I was going to be a coach. It was something that was sort of spoken into me, and something where my dream maybe shifted to, I don't want to play for the Twins. I want to coach the Twins, you know, because that was probably a little bit more feasible. So once I got done with school, boom, I was right into coaching at Bethel, which again was a super fortunate opportunity to finish college and turn around and be a collegiate coach the very next year.
Yeah, a couple of things you said that I think are so important. You were essentially at the bottom of the depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not where you want to be.
Don't tell me that, JT.
You can be discouraged. You can even get attitude or think like, I'm better than this. I deserve more than this.
Mm-hmm.
But what you chose to do was just stay ready for your opportunity. And then it came, and you were ready and you made the most of it. I don't want to give a sermon here, but in the story of David and Goliath, people know that David is this teenager that killed the giant Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't know is David put in so many hours behind the scenes, and he had fought lions and bears. And when the big moment came, he was ready for it. And I think of you talking about being a kid. It's not just your games, your practices. You put in so many hours just playing because you love doing that. And then when your moment came, you know, you were ready. And I tell young people too, like, how you act when you're a teenager is so important. Like, the fact that you took on the attitude that you did take on as a baseball player led your coach to give you your first coaching job. And I tell young people, like for me, it's the same. My first coaching job came at Mounds View High School because my football coach saw my attitude and my effort as a high schooler. So I tell people, like, you never know what teacher, what coach, what youth pastor is going to be the one that is going to write you a recommendation or get you that first job. So how you treat people in this whole process, whether you're a player, a coach, is so important, because you don't know what doors it could open up for you down the road.
Not to go on too much of a tangent, because I won't. My fellow coaches would tell you that that's a lie every time I lead with that, because I like to talk. But what I do in my day job, which we don't need to talk about, but I'm in sales. I work for a medical device company. I got the opportunity I have because a guy that a parent of a kid on my team that I coached, watched the way that I coached for 2 or 3 consecutive summers. He was the one that opened the door to the job that I now have and absolutely love, because the way that I coached led to my day job, door being opened up and really extended to me. I didn't really interview. My interview or my audition was somebody simply observing me in my every single day. So to your point, that never stops. At least I feel like I'm living proof of that. And I see it all over the place is people pay attention. Coaches pay attention to you as players. Neighbors pay attention to you and your family. And you never know what things are going to lead to, which is, again, why we take ownership for our actions and continually try to refine who we are and the way we are. Because certainly there's times when people see us and they would want nothing to do with us. We are what we are, which is what everybody sees every single day, which often leads to the next things, to the next thing, to the next thing. So that was a funny little, again, tangent that it continues to happen to me, and I'm not an athlete, but somehow the sports field is continually shaping what happens next to me on top of everything else it's teaching.
That's so good. So good. I love that you said you had coaches call out in you that you were a coach. Mm-hmm. Now you're a coach, and sometimes someone needs to see our potential and call it out before we see it or we believe in it. Mm-hmm. And now you get to do that for the young guys that you coach. Mm-hmm. So cool. I want to transition and hear about, you mentioned you grew up, faith being a foundation, going to a Christian college. Tell us, what have been some key moments in your faith journey?
Yeah. I think initially, key moment was being raised by the family that I was, in the community that I was. So to my point earlier, and that you just mentioned, I was fortunate to grow up in a home that was speaking truth into me from the minute that I was born. Now, is my family perfect? Is my community perfect? Absolutely not. And even if it was, would it mean that I land in a great spot? Absolutely not. But I feel fortunate to have that be my foundation. Now, it also poses other challenges. So I think I knew right from wrong biblically from a very young age. I think I had accepted Jesus into my heart from a very young age. And I think he lived within me from a very young age. Once I got to high school was where I think I think of 2 times in my life, 2 moments, if you will, where things changed. And I think about high school, and I was a part of Young Life, which is a organization that operates kind of independent of the schools, but with the schools, that offers the ability to get together, sing songs, mess around. Every kid's welcome. Go to summer camp, go to fall camp. So it's an organization that's really going, hey, everyone's welcome, all walks of life. But we're going to learn a little bit about this Jesus guy. You might know a ton about him, or you might not know a ton about him, but take what you want and leave what you want. And if you're up for learning more, we got people that want to get to know you and spend time with you and go as deep as you want. So I was a part of Young Life. And in high school, I think I had, I went on a few summer camps where really I had accepted Jesus, but I think I was challenged and really saw that my family's acceptance of Jesus wasn't me accepting Jesus. It was, I have a relationship and it's very personal and it's one-on-one. So if my brother is friends with JT, but I don't really know JT, I'd be lying to go like, yeah, we're good buddies. I know the ins and outs of you, but to the average Joe, I might say, yeah, JT's a friend of mine, thinking that I'm inheriting something that is close to me, but it's not actually mine. I don't know if that's confusing, but I would think of my relationship like that, where, yeah, I know things secondhand a little bit more about this Jesus guy, and he knows me, and I know that, but there's probably other things that are more important, and that shows up in my life. So landing a part of Young Life, and then at some summer camps that were about a week long, where really we're having fun, but everything's removed. You are given a ton of time to spend thinking, being challenged. To me, all of a sudden, that was a shift in my mind to go, holy smokes, this is a real thing that I have a choice to make. And then I have, from that choice, this is what it looks like. And that's up to me. So I think I started taking ownership there. Now, my biggest ownership would come in college. I think my freshman year of college, again, I made good choices in high school. On the external, I think I would look like a very good kid. I think I had a hard heart. I had a selfish heart. I think I was making the right decisions for the wrong reasons, not necessarily because I wanted to, because I think I was afraid of what perception would look like if I made the wrong ones. So I was very protective of my image, which looked real nice. Now, inside, I think I was aware of my image, which is selfish. So even in the way that I worked at sports or did things, again, I think it was a little bit of a constant battle. Like, I'm working like crazy because I want to succeed as a team. I want to enjoy I want those are all good things, but I also probably had a chip on my shoulder that was a selfish desire to go like, I don't care what anybody says about me. I'm going to be better than everyone. And I'm actually being fueled by people telling me I'm not, or maybe whatever voice is telling me I'm not, which again, we like that fire, but we need to ask, is that fire fueled out of selfish nature, or is that fire fueled out of, hey, this is an opportunity for me to push myself and be the best that I can. And that's a super healthy way to approach that chip on your shoulder. But I didn't approach it that way. Come college, I think, early in college, I was at a Christian university, had great friends. Again, I'm doing all the right things. I probably had a few things where I made decisions that were not so good externally. They would be things that didn't protect my super great image. And that was that was the coolest thing that's happened to me. Was I think I had this realization all of a sudden where I realized that I was chasing perfect. There was perfect, and I was chasing it, and it looked this kind of way. All of a sudden I have a blip on the screen and things don't go my way. I make a bad choice and I'm blemished at that point. I am not perfect for the first time, sort of, again, that's not true, but in my eyes, that's how it felt. Like, holy smokes, I'm exposed. Because JT could know that I'm not perfect now. that was the biggest turning point for me. And the reason is the Lord took, stupid decisions by me, and showed me that perfect doesn't exist. Jesus is perfect. Beyond that, there is literally no perfect, and that's perfect. That is the way that he made it. We are imperfect, so we need Jesus. And that's the end of the story. That's literally the end of the story. So I had these blinders that were on of being obsessed with perfect taken off at my own deficit. But what it did was enable me to go, holy smokes, I'm chasing something that doesn't exist. And what a burden that is to stop chasing that. What a burden lifting off to my shoulders that is to stop chasing that. So now, have I gone on and made perfect decisions since then? Absolutely not. I am not perfect, but I'm okay with that for the first time in my life, starting in my freshman year at college. So that was where I think I really went, the Lord's got a plan for me. The Lord has made me a certain way, and he's made me to need him. And so I better lean on him. And so again, sorry, that's a little bit winded, but that was my biggest pivot in my faith, to go, man, I need the Lord. And that is awesome, because it is a burden off my shoulders for the first time in 18 years. Cause I think I had been living with it, but not necessarily knowing that, and probably was a little bit symptomatic of a family that had spoken truth into me, and a bunch of kids that had made good decisions and appeared externally like they're in a really good spot. It's hard to allow yourself to be exposed and really be known when you're looking around and feeling like everybody else is perfect. So from there on forward, again, I think my relationship with God, but my relationship with others took a huge strides, because I was very comfortable being honest. And to this day, saying it how it is, saying how I am, is not difficult for me, because I'm not embarrassed. And that has done wonders for me. It did wonders for me as an athlete, did wonders for me as a friend, in relationships, in family, and of course, in my relationship with God. So God takes bad things and makes them really good. And for me, that was really where my biggest pivot came. Now, whatever, we're 10 years later, and life's still hard and life's not perfect, but I get to wake up each day and go and accept that and feel appreciative of that, which is just counter to the way I've done my life prior.
Right. That's so good, because there's a misconception that exists, and we can even be tempted to take it on, but thinking like Christianity or having faith in God is all about being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we try, but we're not. But really the opposite is true. Christianity is about admitting and accepting that I'm not perfect, and I need this savior, and I have it in Jesus. And it's funny, in the world, Christians may have a reputation for being prideful, but the truth is, like, it would be prideful to think I don't need Jesus. And it takes humility to say, man, I can try, but I know I'm gonna mess up again and again. And so, and even you talked about, like, yes, relationships with God and with others, but even your sport, you mentioned earlier, like, and I resonate with this, you used to live and die by your performance and your success. And when you had a great game, you feel on top of the world. And when you have a horrible game, you feel worthless. And like being able to compete now and for you to coach and know that your value and your identity doesn't depend on that is so freeing. And it doesn't mean you don't try hard and you don't want to win. It just means, man, I can do my very best and know that my identity is bigger than this. So I know there are many, but if you can take one lesson that you've learned playing sports and explain how it has impacted your life outside of sports, you know, as a husband, a father, as an employee, a leader, what's one thing?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind, as you say, that is discipline. And again, I think it was shown to me early that if you work hard, you know, the result, you can live with the result, right? The result will come. But the real truth of it is if you work hard, you can live with the result. And typically you're happy with it. But that's not the point. The point is that you can live with it knowing that I did all I could and then I got to let her buck. But it doesn't happen without the discipline on the front end. I think that has bled over into all aspects of my life. Work ethic is it goes so far beyond sports. But for me, that's where it started. You know, that's where I saw early guys really be able to separate themselves based on how hard they worked, how disciplined they were when it didn't matter necessarily. And now I'm, you know, doing things far beyond sports. But I look back and go, holy smokes, I'm thankful for that because I understand that where there's discipline and where there's hard work, there's fruit that you're looking to get, but you got to put in the work to get there. And without sports, I don't know exactly how I would have learned those things. I'm sure I would have, but for me, that was where I got them. And not that, you know, I wish I was bigger, faster, stronger, but the fact that I wasn't, now I'm appreciative of because I couldn't get away with mediocre. I couldn't get away with 75% effort. I couldn't even get away with that with playing street basketball with, you know, you or my older brothers because I just wasn't good enough. So I didn't have anything besides 100%. Had I been better, I think there's more susceptibility. Had I been more gifted, I think there's more susceptibility to feel like 75% will suffice because it genuinely does for long periods of time in your life until everybody's worked hard and all of a sudden the chips start falling where they may. Now you turn that over into the way you do the rest of your life. And the gifts go, the physical gifts are gone because now we're talking about not sports. You are the measure of what you put in at that point. So not having the opportunity to be okay with 75% effort has just bled over into the rest of my life. And so again, to me, that discipline that was kind of like not by choice early, it was sort of my survival is the biggest takeaway that I have. And again, I even think relationally the same thing. Like I would look and go, you know, we're either doing this thing or we're not. And what it looks like is getting to know each other, really spending time, really investing. And that sort of lukewarm, like I'm here, but I'm not all the way here. Just doesn't exist so much because of what I had to do in sports growing up. So that's my biggest takeaway if I had to pinpoint one.
If just piggybacking off of it, one of the keywords you said is investment. When you are invested in something, it means a whole lot more to you. And I think of you and I both know the football program that we were in. You had to show up every day for summer lifting. You know, you had 2 days. You had conditioning at both practices. Like, there was so much investment. And that's why I think a group that on paper is undersized, under fast, under talented was able to succeed at a certain level, because when you put in all that work and the ball's in the air and it's 3rd and 10, you really, really want to catch it. And I've seen times where people aren't as invested, and then those big plays, it's like making big plays is not just about one moment. It's like everything you put in up to that moment makes that play. And that's such a good word. Like, your talent will only, if you're talented and you haven't worked that hard and the ball's in the air, it's like, oh, I might catch it, I might not. But when you've invested so much, like, it's a bigger deal. That's a good word. I want to come to a close here by you finishing the statement, dear young athlete, because you are on the Dear Young Athlete podcast. So what do you want to say to your players, to a younger Nik Anderson?
That's good. I probably should have thought of that and had something premeditated. But what comes to mind is, dear young athlete, buy in for your teammates, because that's how you're going to get out what you want. We talk about that with our team right now, and especially, the senior class all the way to the freshman classes. Everything's bigger than you. And life's too short to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, or 1.5 foot in and a half a foot out in anything we do. So we may not put in, and again, dear athlete, it's not about how many hours you put in. I guess that would be secondary, because I think nowadays it's like people are told, like, you're siloing your sport and this is how you want to go pro. This is what it looks like. You don't do other sports. You don't do other things. You are doing this sport all the time, because that's what it takes. I couldn't disagree more. What it takes is, when we're doing it all the way. Just like when we're doing school, we do it all the way. Or if we're hanging out with somebody, we're actually hanging out with them. We're not hanging out with our phone mostly, but also our friend. And so that's the buy-in factor, is when you show up. Because if you're not going to be present, it's better for everybody if you're just not there. And again, had I known that even more earlier, I think special moments come, tighter relationships come, and a satisfaction that's not about me comes significantly more. So if we could run it back, those are the things that I would take with me.
Amen. Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to hear more about your story, some of your wisdom. And man, I appreciate our relationship, and just hope it'll continue to grow. And so thank you for your time and for blessing us with your words. Any
Appreciate
final
it.
Any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate you having me. It's an honor to jump on with you, and I appreciate what you do, and circle back with me in a few years, because I'm sure I'll have learned, more things, and have learning experiences that, again, you don't foresee, but life's crazy. So no, I appreciate you, JT.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Dear Young Athlete podcast. Make sure you check out our website linked in the description and find out how you could bring Dear Young Athlete to your team or your group. Check out our merchandise and use code all caps DYA20 and take 20% off your first order. Also, consider partnering with us on Patreon. You'll get regular discounts, you'll get exclusive content, and you'll be supporting a great movement. Wherever you're listening, make sure you follow and leave us a review. It really helps the algorithm and helps this podcast reach more people. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.